Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, thank you for being here today. I've got a lot to cover and would like to jump right into it. I'm going to make a plea to you to help my constituents, all of our constituents, get their money back from the IRS and to get what's owed to them. I'm going to make a plea to you to help with the mental health of my district staff that works with your agency all of the time, and all of the district staffs, because they are losing their minds over the frustrations of dealing with things like a taxpayer advocacy service that simply is not responsive and not working. They are losing their minds over 4.5-hour courtesy hang-up calls. They are losing their minds trying to help my constituents day in and day out. And we have heard about all of these vast improvements, and I'm glad that somewhere in the rest of the country that's happening. So I'm going to beg you, if I get you certain cases or will you work with my staff to help get the folks the relief? Let me give you a couple of examples of why this is important. We had one small business that was looking for $1.4 million in earned income tax credits. Because of the delays, it cost $150,000 in interest. In 2021, interest payments grew to $3.3 billion, up 33%. I've got list after list after list here of the number of quarterly interest payments that, in just a very few cases that my staff works. Think about this. One of these interest payments could provide benefits for a Social Security beneficiary for maybe up to 6 years. Think about that. We're struggling to figure out how to pay to solve insolvency, to fix the insolvency problem with Social Security. And if you just fix one of these cases, we could cover somebody for up to 6 years. So will you work with my office to handle this? Because another case that's very interesting is that we have a letter. One of my constituents has a letter that says you are due a 7-figure refund. Says it from the IRS. And for 3 years, they can't get an answer on it. 3 years. So I'm proud that somebody's getting a little relief, but we ain't getting it down to the peach state. So will you help us? Will you please help my constituents and my staff?
Yes, you have my commitment.
Okay, good. Look, now here's the other challenge that we've got. This is the data that you provided regarding where the new hires in the IRS are going to be through fiscal year 31. This is the data that you provided, and we've just put it into a nice little graph form here. And so with this wonderful customer service that you have right now, and I say that very facetiously, what we see taxpayer services in the out years begins to drop significantly. So a bad problem's getting worse, yet the enforcement number is going straight through the roof, and operational support is coming down. Based off of where we are right now, this whole thing is backwards. You need to be funding taxpayer services a heck of a lot more, getting folks their money back, and you don't need to be going after the enforcement side the way that you are. So, I mean, this simply does not make sense. Every single person here is talking about the problems that they have, that their constituents have with the IRS in getting their money back. And yet, what we see from your own data is that this line is coming down. So this doesn't make any sense. So taxpayer services are going down, enforcement is going up. Just doesn't make sense. So one other issue that's out there, I'm going to bring your attention to, just get your thoughts on it. I guess maybe just get a commitment. You are not planning to implement a bank surveillance scheme with IRS that was proposed before that was not, but you're making no effort to implement.
That's correct.
Okay, good. So if you were a representative, and I know that you're the commissioner, but if you were a representative, you would have absolutely no problem with HR 1010, our bill that would prohibit the IRS from implementing that bank surveillance scheme.
Yeah, I defer to the Treasury Secretary on those types of questions.
Okay, well.
I'm just required to.
She was fairly non-committal as well, but it sounds like it's not something that you
we have no intent of.
So good, you wouldn't have a problem with this. So I look at this and I look at these numbers and I go back. I look at the enforcement side of it in the out years. So you say, oh, don't worry about it here, nothing here. So we're going to have all of this enforcement. So the final question that I've got for you is, how many rounds of ammunition does IRS plan to purchase this year?
I can get back to you on that, but it's
Thank you.
It's not a lot.
Look forward to it. Because if you're not going to hire armed agents, it doesn't make sense for you to be hiring agents. But by the way, on your job posting board today, there's an application for armed agents. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.